Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing the Line. We're going to have a look at this story from the Post-Millennial today from Canada, straight out of Canada. Justin Trudeau's new misinformation laws and internet rules have shut down anyone sharing any news stories from the Post-Millennial there in Canada. Now, if you didn't know Justin Trudeau was a fascist, it's pretty relevant now. It's pretty on the nose. I mean, if you shut down a media organisation that you just disagree with, what else to say but you're a fascist and you're a dictator. Now, Justin Trudeau, not wanting to change tact, not wanting to be a better person, is following along the lines of his family members like Castro and shutting down anyone that disagrees with him. This is what we have to look forward to in Australia with Albanese's proposed misinformation laws on the internet, and this is what we will be looking at very shortly if they pass this bill, pass this legislation. We will not be able to communicate online unless it is deemed sanitary and safe by the government. If you say something that they disagree with, you will be shut down, you will be banned, you will be deplatformed from places like Twitter, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. It doesn't really matter what you say. If the government thinks it's misinformation, which is pretty arbitrary, you will be shut down, you will be taken off, whether you're talking about anything to do with certain injections, whether you're talking about anything to do with government's bills that they're proposing, or anything the government doesn't want you talking about coming up to the vote on The Voice, things like that. If they don't like you talking about it, or if they just want to pretend that you're fake news or fake or promoting misinformation, they will shut you down and they will fine Facebook, Meta, Instagram, places like that for not getting you taken down. So they'll either pull out completely and we will not have those services here available to us in Australia, because what would be the point of them offering it to 25-30 million people when that's just the population of a large city in the US, or, you know, places like Russia that don't even do these kind of things. Like, I mean, if we're getting to the point in Australia where you're not allowed to talk on the internet because the government deems it so and deems what you're saying unnecessary or misinformation, that's a pretty scary place to be when you consider like places even like China and Russia aren't even that bad. They they have their own ways of doing these things, and North Korea is probably the worst for it, because I don't even know if those people have access to actual internet. I think it's like an intranet where they're only allowed to go onto certain government approved websites. And China's going along the lines of the same kind of thing. Russia's obviously got their stuff going on, but you don't expect to tie Australia into those countries there with misinformation laws and shutting down people talking about things that they don't want. But that's where we're headed in this country, and Canada has beaten us to it, and we seem to be following in their footsteps. So we'll have a look at this story from the Post-Millennial. Post-Millennial blocked in Canada as Trudeau's censorship bill Meta ban goes into effect. As Meta begins permanently ending Canadians' ability to view news on its platform in response to Trudeau's Liberal Online News Act, readers of the Post-Millennial have shared their frustration. Under the new regulations, not only are many Instagram and Facebook users unable to view posts that they can't even share them, the Post-Millennial social media team has been unable to view its own content. However, they have been able to circumvent the ban via Hootsuite. It's official. Welcome to Chinanada, however you want to pronounce it. I just attempted to reply to my friend's comment on my Facebook post with a link to the Post-Millennial news article covering the million person march, and this was what came up. Everyone will still now receive this message if you attempt to share. News content cannot be shared in Canada. Wonder why he wouldn't like you sharing news content. It's official. Welcome to China. Anti-mandate activist Sean Rickard wrote, just first attempt to reply to my friend's comment at the Facebook post with a link, Post-Millennial news article covering the million person march. This is what it came up. There's an accompanying screenshot. Rickard told by Facebook that the news content he shared cannot be shared in Canada because of Trudeau's Liberal legislation. Everyone will now receive the message if you attempt to share news stories / articles on Meta platforms in Canada, he added. Has anyone else experienced this on their social media platforms in Canada? Time to wake the hell up, people. Now you can see Jordan B. Peterson's tweet there as well. Rickard Post caught the attention of Jordan Peterson. Sounds like a good time to divorce, he quipped. In the statement released on August 1st, Meta explained in order to provide clarity to the millions of Canadians and businesses who use our platform, it has begun the process of ending news availability permanently in Canada. Meta accused the Online News Act of being based in the incorrect premise that tech companies benefit unfairly from news content shared on their platform, noting that the reverse is actually true. Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre slammed Trudeau over the recent developments, saying they were more like 1984. Who would ever have imagined that Canada, the federal government, would pass laws banning people from effectively seeing the news, he asked. Who would have thought they would have been the government would pass the law to manipulate the algorithms of the internet so that the Prime Minister only sees what he wants them to see? That is a scary truth and reality that's coming closer to us here in Australia. If it's happening there in Canada, if it's happening in the US, it's even happening where they have a Bill of Rights and they have free speech. We do not have that here in Australia. If it is happening there, it will happen here. If people don't rise up and stop these government officials from pushing these legislations, Albanese government pushing this kind of crap forward and banning us from talking about things they do not want said, it's going to be too late. You will not be able to leave your home, or you will not be able to say anything outside without getting fined, harassed by the police or the government or something along those lines. You could very well just lose your job from saying certain things online. You could very well lose your livelihood. You could lose a lot more than just your job now if these things are getting pushed, and it's going to end up like what it is in England. If you misgender someone on the internet, if you say something that they don't deem politically correct, you can be fined and or put in jail for that. This is coming to Australia. This is somewhere where we're at the precipice now that if we do not do something about it now, it will be too late, because you will not be able to talk about it once this bill goes through, once this legislation's in. It's too late then. You will not be able to talk about it because the government will just deem that it's misinformation that you're saying, and you will be banned off of social media. You'll be taken down. Your post won't be viewed. Whatever it is, the government and the Facebook Meta and things like that will see to it that you are silenced. This is deadly. This is dangerous. This is George Orwellian 1984, like it says there. This is terrifying. And if we do not stop it now, if we let this go through, we will be paying the consequences of it. Our children will pay the consequences of it, because they will grow up in a world where you are not allowed to say something true on the internet. You are not allowed to say something true in public if it is deemed misinformation by the government. We've seen over the last couple of years how hard they railed against people talking about the truth, and even just having an idea that didn't go, that went against the mainstream narrative, and just see how much people were attacked for it. We had pregnant women getting dragged out of their house in handcuffs here in Australia because they said that they were going to a rally, or they said they might attend something like that, when it was illegal to do so here. And they hadn't even broken the law yet, but the government decided that they're going to walk into their home and arrest them for saying that they might do something. We have seen it here in Australia. We're seeing it there in Canada and America. It's happening. England is too far gone. They are arresting thousands of people a year on misgendering people or offending people online, basically. You've always got that famous case of Count Dankula, who taught his dog to do the Nazi salute to the words "gas the Jews," which was quite bloody funny. And he went through hell for it. He's made him famous, but he is still suffering the consequences of that, going through the court system, and I believe he's he was facing jail time over it. But that's in Scotland, and you kind of think that the free world and the world we live in with Canada, America, United Kingdom, Australia, places like that, we like to think that they're free. We like to think that we have freedom of speech, and it's just getting proven every day that that is not true. We need to lock this down. We need to be able to make sure that we have our rights and our freedoms, the little that we do have left. You cannot sit on the sidelines anymore. We need to actually actively get out there and do something about them. I don't know if we can sign a petition. We can go and talk to government leaders, tell them that we do not want this. Get out there and talk to your friends at work about it. Talk to your family. let them know how dangerous this is. They might just think that, oh, you're talking about flat earthers and things like that. But if the government is out there putting out misinformation, it turns out that they were spreading a lot of lies and a lot of misinformation over the last couple of years. They are exempt from this rule. They don't print out misinformation according to them. It's only uneducated masses of people like, I don't know, everyone who's not in government. We had doctors getting shut down over the last couple of years. We have scientists getting shut down for saying things that are true and that are proven to be true now, and were even theorizing things that were proven to be true now, and common sense things they were saying over the last couple of years, and they were getting shut down. Now, this is that kind of totalitarianism, that kind of censorship. This is turned up a notch. This is so they don't have the guise of having a pandemic and saying that they're protecting people or saving people's lives anymore by shutting this free speech down and stopping these people talking about these things that could hurt someone, which was what their ruling was over the last couple of years. They don't have that anymore to use as a bludgeon, to use as an excuse. So they are just going to legislate it to make sure that whatever they deem necessary for us to hear, we will hear. Whatever they don't deem necessary for us to hear, we will not hear. And if you say something that goes against the Communist Party guidelines of the Albanese government, you will be shut down, you will be banned, you will be fined, and you will be taken down off the internet, and you will not have a voice. The worst thing about this is people who cannot be heard scream. People who cannot be heard when they're screaming start throwing rocks. And we've seen it with protests over the last couple of years. When people don't get heard, they step up their game. How far do we have to go in Australia? How far does the government have to go before we step up our game and make sure our voice is heard, so that they cannot ignore us, so they cannot lie about us, and so they cannot ignore the facts that we are showing them now? And I think Australia is very slow to react. I think we have a massive issue here in this country with she'll be right attitude, where it's like over the last few years we saw that, and a lot of people seem to have forgotten what's happened. They just want to move on. I don't know whether they have a bit of PTSD or they just honestly don't care the way they treated half the population here in this country. But they seem to forget too quickly here in this country, and we seem to have this massive problem with that she'll be right. It's not going to be right. We have freedoms now and we're losing them. We're getting sold out every day to China. We are losing any right to say anything we want to. We are losing rights to our own children in this country. We're losing rights based on our race, skin color, and anything to do with like international affairs. We're losing rights there. We've just signed a deal with California. Australia's just signed a deal with California to share going green and combat climate change. So now we're going to be dictated how we run things in this country by a leftist Californian state in America. Not alone there, we are dictated to how we run this country from China, because they pay the bills here in Australia. They pay the politicians. We are getting run by other countries, and there's nothing we can do about it now because it's too late. We have let it go from being a piece of legislation to being put into practice here, and we just kind of shrug it off as she'll be right. Too many people kind of shrug it off as she'll be right, mate. And I know a lot of people that live in places like Victoria that do not see the issues with their totalitarian communist dictator Daniel Andrews that they have down there, and they kind of just shrug it off as no, well, we could have a lot worse. It could, he's not that bad. He may do these silly things, but it's not all too bad because my day-to-day life hasn't changed. And they kind of forget that they were the most lockdown state, the most lockdown city in the world for several years, and they had to raise children through that. He's now banning things like the use of chainsaws in national parks, so the RFS can't even clear fire trails ahead of fire season. Little things like that are going to come back to bite him in the ass. And then when that does, like that specific thing does come back to bite him in the ass with a fire next year or later on in this year, they're just going to blame it on climate change and then make their rules accordingly, and then you know, get rid of gas stoves, like they've just done that in Victoria, gas appliances, and they'll just say it's because of climate change. So then they'll double down on their efforts to their agenda, whatever their agenda is on the matter. It's whether it's selling out to China down in Victoria or going green, those kind of things. We need to band together now, talk about it, tell everyone what's going on, look into these legislations, look into the news stories, and make our voices heard. We will not be silenced, because if it gets to the point where we cannot talk anymore, we will start shouting. And if we start shouting and we are ignored, we will start throwing rocks. And sometimes rocks are made out of other things than rock. They're made out of lead. They're made out of Molotov cocktails. And for Australia to get to that point, it will be pretty hard, because there are so many sad, lazy people in this country that do not want to work, that do not want to stand up for their own rights, and are happy with the boot on their neck, because the boot on their neck gives them comfort, gives them warmth, gives them some sort of, well, it's not up to me, I don't have to worry about it, it's up to them above me, and they lose any sort of freedom, but they keep that totalitarian dictators like a blanket of warmth and security, and they love that. And I think that's a massive problem here in Australia. We can see that coming up with a voice. Talk to anyone about it and they want to vote no. I think I've talked to one person that would want to vote yes, and they weren't even sure about that. Every other person I've talked to does not want to vote yes, they just want to vote no. And I think that is going to be a resounding no when it comes through in the vote. But I also worry about the mass unwashed population in places like Melbourne, Victoria, Sydney, Perth, Adelaide, the major city hubs, who have no idea what's going on, and they just think that they're going to be voting for making Aboriginal people happy or something like that. It'll be like the biggest lie ever told to the country. Well, second biggest lie. But what do you guys think anyway? Let me know in the comments down below, and please look into this misinformation bill that we have here in Australia, and we can see where we're going in Canada, in America, and in places like New Zealand even, and the UK, where that has led to them and is jailing people, and we can see where it's going to be leading here in Australia. So take a look at the bill. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in another episode. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.